Hey, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at the investment markets. Another very interesting week out there. Looks like there was a little bit of progress made on the China-US trade talks. But then to surprise, a visit to some of the US agricultural sites was cancelled by Stephen Mnuchin. That came as a bit of a surprise, certainly to President Trump. Put him in a little bit of an awkward situation in a press conference, and it's just going to be very interesting to see how that sort of plays through. Certainly there does appear to be a little bit of friction there between Mnuchin and the president. And I say it's just going to be very interesting to see, one, how this sort of plays through, but also as well how sort of China reacts as well. As we have discussed here many times, that both sides do need a deal. Certainly the US economy looks like it is slowing a little bit. Certainly the Chinese economy is slowing a little bit as well. And really both sides need each other and need to get a deal sorted. And what is quite interesting is quite a few of the economists and analysts now still expect a deal to be done certainly before the year end. But maybe of more immediate concern to the president, there's sort of fresh allegations out there in terms of his behaviour, especially on a phone call to the Ukraine about potentially withholding sort of aid in exchange and favour for investigating one of his presidential opponents coming up in the 2020 election. Now, what appears to have made it a little bit more sort of unclear is that President Trump has now come out and said, actually, yes, he did look to withhold this aid. But he couched it in such a way that he sort of said, look, he withheld it because that's what the Europeans do. They don't help Ukraine, and he was just doing what the Europeans do, and until everyone else sorts their house out, he's not going to change either. Very interesting set of situations, and it'll be very interesting to see how this sort of plays through. Because certainly if you look at it, say on the fundamental side, the US economy is still pushing along at a pretty reasonable rate. You've got reasonable growth, you've got record low unemployment, you've got reasonable corporate earnings as well. Just as a side note as well, it was quite interesting to hear President Trump sort of lauding and praising how great the US economy was, when just last week he was complaining to the Fed that they should be cutting rates even further because the economy needs a bit of a boost. Oil seems to have recovered quite a bit of its sort of composure, certainly given up quite a bit of its gains as well. Really, as Saudi Arabia looks to get production sort of back online. Interesting as well, obviously, with the Aramco sort of IPO in the offing as well. Well, that was potentially going to be delayed because of this action. That appears not to be the case. Indeed, the Saudis are still reckoning that they're going to get at least half the production back online by the end of September, and the rest should be shortly after that. There's still obviously the blame game out there. Certainly the US and the Saudis are blaming Iran. The UK has come out now and sort of said, yes, it looks like it was Iran as well. Iran's obviously denied that, and it's just to say a bit of sort of cat and mouse and sort of tit for tat. He says, they say. Brexit, Boris Johnson has suffered another major defeat. The Supreme Court has ruled that his suspension of Parliament was unlawful. That's sort of the third one on the top that he's lost now is a major sort of vote or decision against him, and this is going to be very interesting to see how it sort of plays through. Obviously, he will now have to recall Parliament. He's still adamant that he will do what he's been mandated to do, which is take the UK out of the EU on the 31st of October, deal or no deal. What he doesn't seem to grasp is the fact that Parliament's passed into law that a no deal is not an option, so he has to get a deal in place. Certainly at the moment he looks just a little bit sort of lost and sort of bumbling along really. Obviously the sort of defeats that can't be helping his confidence out there, and the rest of the government really seem pretty lackluster as well. So it could be very interesting the next sort of 4 weeks for the UK political system. Obviously quite a few calls for him to resign. I think that's possibly not going to happen because, you've only got 4 weeks to really to sort of negotiate a deal with Brussels. And, really sort of him resigning and someone else taking over, you almost just go back to square one. A little bit closer to home, the Australian housing market looks like it's maybe starting to turn a little bit. Certainly, price falls are sort of starting to wane, and indeed a little bit of sort of increased activity out there as well. But interesting, one of the major banks is still forecasting a cut in interest rates for the RBA in October, and one more before the year end. Here in New Zealand, I've still got sort of near record low business confidence. That hasn't been helped by the latest round of data, with GDP growing just 0.5. Now, Grant Robertson, the finance minister, has come out and sort of explained it away and said there's global headwinds and sort of blaming everyone apart from taking responsibility for government's policies that clearly is not inspiring business at present. Now, as we've discussed, we've yet to see the impact of the rate cut from the RBNZ, that half a point cut which took rates down to 1%. That really hasn't filtered through into the economy yet. And hopefully that will start to sort of pick up, especially in the housing market, which should give consumers a little bit more confidence and potentially, have that sort of feel-good feeling coming through the economy. It's just interesting that businesses really don't seem to be ready to commit capital at present because there's just so many policy uncertainties out there from the government. And certainly if you look at it now, they've been in power coming up for 2 years now, and really most of their policies, there's really been very few that have actually come to fruition and they're actually seeing sort of any traction out there. And obviously most of the big ones are, the sort of infrastructure spend, the regional growth fund, although plenty of money's been sort of committed and allocated, there's been very few results coming through, and obviously Kiwi Build has been a unmitigated failure so far. Now obviously income options are still really quite favourable here in New Zealand, and if you are looking to discuss what is available, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. We look forward to speaking to you soon.